On a dusty parade ground in Burkina Faso, 764 engines coughed to life in the same breath. This wasn't a military parade in the traditional sense, but it was the loudest message the Sahel has heard all year. Before a young captain, Ibrahim Traoré, stood a fleet of machinery that could redraw West Africa's map quicker than any heads of state group photo. As the keys to this massive arsenal of development were handed over on September 11th and 12th, the order was implicit and understood by all. Take the land back, then pave it so nobody can choke us again. This moment was the culmination of a promise, a tangible delivery of steel and horsepower against a decade of stagnation and fear. For 10 years, the simple act of moving goods or people across Burkina Faso had become a life-or-death gamble. Moving soldiers to a hotspot, getting grain to a hungry town, or even transporting a sick child between provinces felt like playing roulette, not with fate, but with the crumbling ground itself. The country's development had been held hostage by poor infrastructure, a problem violently exploited by extremist groups who thrived in the nation's isolated corners. Attacks on infrastructure became a deliberate strategy to cut off populations and weaken the state. During the rainy season, the situation became exponentially worse. One washed-out bridge could freeze an entire convoy for weeks, causing food prices in isolated markets to skyrocket and cutting off entire villages from the rest of the world. This logistical nightmare created a vicious cycle. Farmers watched their harvests rot, unable to reach markets. The army struggled with mobility, unable to swiftly respond to threats. And the government was forced to spend exorbitant sums on food imports and emergency aid. Generals, farmers, and mothers were all asking the same question: how do you defend or even feed a country when the very ground beneath your feet keeps slipping away? Captain Ibrahim Traoré's answer arrived on those flatbeds. The fleet, acquired under the presidential Fosso Mebo initiative, was a stunning display of national ambition. It included everything needed to build a nation from the ground up. Powerful graders to level the stubborn laterite soil, massive dump trucks, heavy-duty concrete mixers, towering cranes, rugged 4x4 pickups, and essential support vehicles like fuel tankers and mobile floodlights. Each cab was stamped with the words Fosso Mebo, a symbol of the president's day-one commitment to national renewal. More importantly, the ownership papers read, "Property of Burkina Faso," in bold French and Dioula. This declaration, seemingly simple, was a revolutionary act. It signified a decisive break from a past defined by dependency, 10-year leases, and the flags of foreign benefactors on the dashboard. This was not charity. It was an acquisition, a sovereign act of self-determination. To understand why 764 machines matter, one must look beyond the sheer number and consider the strategic, dual-use logic behind the purchase. This is where the genius of the plan reveals itself. Imagine a village that has consistently lost half its tomato harvest because a single impassable road prevents trucks from reaching the market. Now, hand that region a dedicated road brigade equipped with a grader, a compactor, and a 20,000-liter water tanker. The problem of post-harvest waste is dramatically reduced. Now view that same equipment through a soldier's eyes. A grader isn't just for roads. It's for carving out defensive berms around a forward operating base in hours, not days. A mobile floodlight on a four-wheel base allows special forces to move and operate at night without lighting up their GPS coordinates for enemy drones. A water tanker is a lifeline for a platoon deep in the bush, just as it is for a construction crew. This is the same gear fighting two wars simultaneously, one against hunger and one against gunmen. The government has already begun organizing this fleet into highly mobile regional road brigades with names like Yadga, Kuis, Gomu, and Bankui. These are not just construction crews, they are tactical units of development. The process is methodical. Graders go in first, their heavy blades scraping and leveling the earth that laterite won't flatten on its own. They're followed by a coordinated dance of mixers and dumpers, with one pouring fresh concrete while the other shuttles materials, ensuring a continuous workflow. Cranes are deployed to drop precast culverts into place, instantly fortifying the new roads against the flash floods that once washed away entire sections of track. Finally, the pickups, with their beefed-up suspensions, serve as rapid response vehicles for engineer escorts, bringing in technical expertise or providing security for the crews. It operates like a Swiss Army knife the size of a province, with each tool deployed for maximum effect. While this new equipment was rolling out, another wing of this national strategy was already hard at work. Tractors and other agricultural machinery from previous procurement batches, part of a 13 billion CFA franc investment, were tilling the soil in the south. Traoré's logic is brutally simple: fix the roads to get food to market, but simultaneously give farmers the horsepower to produce a surplus so they don't need rescuing later. Over 400 tractors, tillers and motor pumps have been distributed, with free servicing provided for the poorest farmers. This integrated approach is yielding historic results. For the 2024-2025 season, national cereal production is projected to smash records, soaring to over 6 million tons. This represents an 18% increase from the previous year, creating a national surplus and covering 111% of the country's needs. When this surplus grain meets the new reliable road network, the economic equation is transformed. Food prices in the cities are expected to fall, village farmers will earn more, and the national treasury can drastically cut its spending on foreign rice imports. Of course, such a monumental acquisition prompts the inevitable question: where did the 78 billion CFA francs come from? Critics, expecting a new mountain of foreign debt, have been met with a lesson in fiscal sovereignty. The answer lies in shrewdly rerouting the national budget. The funds that were previously allocated to renting foreign hauling and construction equipment, often at exorbitant emergency premiums, were redirected. Fuel subsidies were trimmed, and a fair levy was applied to the country's lucrative gold mining sector. The result was the full sum acquired without taking on new debt. When you compare this one-time investment to the endless, spiraling costs of inaction, the perpetual food import bills, the security budget overruns, the investors who ghost the country due to logistical chaos, the ledger starts to look like daylight robbery in reverse. The tremor of this decision was felt far beyond Burkina Faso's borders. In neighboring capitals, economists and politicians are glued to the numbers and the satellite images of fresh earth being turned. When a Nigerian trader sees Burkina graders carving a new, efficient artery towards their border, the calculus of regional trade shifts. Suddenly, transit fees that were once non-negotiable become flexible. Ports in Ghana, which have long benefited from Burkina Faso's landlocked status, must preemptively consider cutting their tariffs, lest this new infrastructure network siphons cargo traffic north to other corridors. This single, bold purchase has rewired regional bargaining power. The shockwave of empowerment, originating from one parade ground in Ouagadougou, was felt from Dakar to Lomé. To an outsider, it is merely steel and rubber. But to the youth of Burkina Faso, it is the first promise that came with a set of ignition keys. It is a profound symbol of ownership over their own destiny. For decades, development has been something that was done to them, often with foreign logos and foreign consultants. Now, every time a young Burkina operator climbs into the cab of a brand new grader, the nation's flag on the door stares back. It is a daily reminder of ownership, not charity, of empowerment, not dependency. On a continent grown weary of speeches, pledges, and white papers, the image of that operator, building his own country's future, travels farther and speaks louder than any UN summit ever could. If your country received 764 machines overnight, which single road would you fix first? However, no one should ignore the immense risks. This is a revolution on wheels, and it is fragile. Machines break down, especially under the harsh conditions of the Sahel. The temptation of corruption to divert fuel or sell spare parts will always be knocking, and the rains, relentless and unforgiving, will still come. Captain Traoré himself issued a stern warning to the new crews. Maintenance is a patriotic duty, not a suggestion. To counter these risks, a robust logistics chain is being established. Spare part hubs will be decentralized from the capital to regional depots, and operators are being trained on advanced simulators before they are allowed to touch the pedals. Failure to follow these steps would make the line between a national fleet and a national scrap heap razor thin. If this vision holds, what does victory look like in the near future? Flash forward to 2026. A tomato truck weaves a farm in Bobo Dioulasso at dawn. It travels on smooth, reliable laterite, reaching its buyer across the border in Ghana by lunchtime, and a driver is back home before his children have finished their school day. A military unit gets an alert about activity on the border. They respond immediately, their travel time chopped in half because the roads no longer swallow their axles. Crane silos in the fertile west empty seamlessly into markets in the arid north, stabilizing food prices for everyone. When this becomes the routine, not the exception, presidential approval ratings will seem academic. The landscape itself will have already voted. These 764 engines, now wearing government plates, represent a fundamental shift in philosophy. Their real ownership belongs to every farmer, soldier, and citizen who can now picture a better tomorrow without having to ask for permission. If you believe that new roads can end more fights than new bullets, this is a story to watch. Keep your eyes on the dust rising over Yodga and Gomu. It's not just construction, it's the first chapter of a West Africa that is learning to move and to rise under its own horsepower. While the world keeps debating, Burkina Faso has just pressed start. Intent.